Hello there, and welcome back to the Agostino Zinga Show with your host, Agostino Zinga, and this is episode number 819. That is Ocho Uno Nuevo. What's going on? How you doing? Do you like my Espanol? Or do you like my Espanoles? Whatever, which one it is, you know where we are, you know how we are, what's going on, what's crack-a-lacking. Welcome back to the Agostino Zinga Show. Hope you're doing well. Wherever this lovely podcast may find you, I hope you are doing splendid. Apologies for the break in the previous episode. I was meant to go on a bit longer, but I had a bit of an appointment to meet up and, the old Zoom thing. You know how it is. But we're here, we're ready to go. No more delays. No more bloody delays. Yeah, man. Let's just crack right into it. I feel really sad and almost conflicted at this current story that I want to share with you guys. It's regarding the bad news Amazon workers have received about having to return to work. I feel so conflicted and bad for these people because a part of me feels like, you know what? Maybe it is time that we all go back into the offices. Maybe it is time that we all leave our comfortable homes and we start commuting again. Maybe it is time that we start to quote unquote touch grass instead of staying at home. But then on the other flip side of things, most of us, myself included, have spent the last 4 years or so getting used to and getting comfortable in working from home. Now to suddenly require us to fucking, change everything about our daily lives and require to go in 5 days a week, that's a big change. Even some of the more stricter companies out there that I know of, from friends or just people I've seen online, they sometimes require you to go in twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. But 5 after working fully remote, oh, that's gotta hurt. That's gonna hurt. After being 100% fully remote, to now have to be required to go into the office 5 days per week with no exceptions. Tough. But as well as Amazon, they do operate on the higher end of like output and whatnot. We all like our products getting to us very quickly. You would assume the only way to run that company and to successfully have our products arrive next day, sometimes in the same day, it would have to require people to work very, very hard. And maybe sometimes the only way to get people to work very hard is have them in the office. Who knows? Let's read the article here, courtesy of Sky News. It says Amazon tells staff to get back to the office 5 days a week. It says Amazon has told office workers they may no longer work from home except in extenuating circumstances. It comes as Jonathan Reynolds, the UK's business secretary, said flexible working contributes to productivity, employee resilience and staff retention. Am I mistaken, or did I remember seeing an article somewhere about the UK exploring 4-day work weeks? I think I saw it somewhere. I think I either saw it somewhere or maybe when I was checking for jobs sometime, I think I might have seen places that are offering different types of full-time. I think there's now full-time that's under 40 and a full-time that's over 40. So I think technically, if you wanted to, you could technically work full-time, but you're going to work it within 4 days, but that would mean that you'd have probably longer 4 days, or you can work it the conventional, 8 to 10 hours, 5 days a week. I think I saw that somewhere. So, but let's continue. Workers need to be judged on the outcomes and not the culture of presentism, says Mr. Reynolds. What's Amazon doing? Amazon has described the policy change as a returning to the way it worked before COVID-19 pandemic, being in the office 5 days a week. That's a good point, though. That is a good point. It was working perfectly fine before the pandemic. Most of us didn't even think about working from home. Like, I remember when I first got the opportunity to work from home, that might have been my first sort of office job. I was working for this like art materials manufacturer here in London, or here in the UK, called Collart. They produce all this like paint and shit. They're responsible for producing paint like Winsor Newton. They produce paint, or they manufacture paint like Liquitex that they use for graffiti cans and shit, or for spray cans, sorry. They do the same thing with Winsor and Newton. They do stuff with acrylic and oils and shit, which was kind of a fun job, doing some marketing stuff for them. And that was the first time I ever had the opportunity to work from home, because sometimes on the Friday, your manager or whoever who was in charge of that day will sometimes tell you, or maybe, or like on the Thursday day before, hey, don't bother coming in on Friday, because a lot of us are on site visits, because a lot of the marketing team or the ops team would go to different stores and do activations and pop-ups and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, you will be in office by yourself, so just work from home. And then that obviously required you to set up your laptop. At that time, I think I had one of those Dell notebooks with like the little red button on the middle, if you remember that, right? I think some companies still use them now, but those laptops are bulletproof. I fucking love that laptop, man. It was like a Dell laptop with a little red button in the middle of the keyboard. And you had to connect to the server. So in order for them to kind of know you're online, you connect to the server. And I think this might have been even before Teams. I think it might have been even before Teams had been set up. So you connect to the server, and that's how they know you're currently online, and then you kind of work from home. And that was so fucking good. Honestly, it was such a treat, something I never really expected. And then of course, once I left Collar and started working in startups, the whole working from home thing was like normal, especially within my field of like marketing and influencer, social media type of shit. Everyone kind of was like working from hot desks or working in co-working spaces or working in coffee shops. Like everyone was always all over the place. And a lot of the time, us fellow startup people, especially people that work in marketing and social media, be honest with yourself. A lot of the people that were doing this stuff were skiving. This is pre-pandemic though. Pre-pandemic, a lot of you motherfuckers that were going to fucking, what's that coffee shop in Old Street? I think it's like Nitro something. I forgot. It's like a coffee shop. Like as you come out off of Old Street, I'm not sure if it's still there, but they used to sell like a Nitro brew. You could get those type of coffees in there. People would go work in there. People would go work in like the Ace Hotel when that used to be there in Shoreditch. And a lot of you motherfuckers, don't lie, would be in Ace Hotel drinking that fucking green tea, right? Getting that green tea by the jug and just sitting there and browsing your social media, updating your SoundClouds, updating your fucking whatever you're doing, but not actually working. So I think a lot of us were skiving the same way some of these Gen Z kids are skiving, but we weren't as bait about it. I think the Gen Z kids are too bait. They're out here fucking doing, you know, what I do in a day, fucking vlogs, videos and stuff, and they're just hotting up the whole thing, showing that they don't work. Like I saw a girl recently actually showing that she was working at Google as like a product manager. And I swear to God, the entire video was just her eating. She was popping in, oh, here we go, today at work. She scans in, she got this cute little outfit, takes a selfie of herself in the lift. She goes and gets some breakfast. She goes and gets a fucking green, what you call it, like a ginger shot. She goes to have a salad. She goes to have this. She's just eating the whole day. And that day she's like, I'm gonna go do some work. It's like, fuck, man, you baited it up. So I think those kids killed it. I think those kids and some millennials killed the whole working from home thing because they just baited it up. They baited it up too much. And I'd imagine if you're on the board of some of these companies, if you're an investor and you saw these videos going viral and your investments were going down and you weren't able to go on your ski trips, your kids' schooling was in jeopardy at boarding school, you weren't able to afford your second fucking Bugatti, you're going to be pissed if you start seeing videos of like 20-somethings and 30, 40-somethings, you know, gallivanting and lollygaggling in fucking office and not working. So I get it from that point of view. I understand it, but I think this working from home, taking the piss culture has always existed. It's just more visible now because of social media. So I don't think it's any different. I swear to God, it's not any different. But I also think it's a piss take because most of us are saving so much money from not, I know I am, from not commuting into work every single day. Because commuting into work, especially in London, is the #1 caner of your wages. Because rent and your mortgage, I don't think you should think about it because you just have to do it. You don't have any choice, right? So your rent and mortgage, you don't really think about it. But usually, if you live in London, unfortunately, your rent and mortgage probably takes up 60% of your paycheck. Maybe more, depending on how much you earn, right? Or maybe less, who knows? But definitely over 50%, right? And the rest of it goes to travel. So if you can save, I don't know, let's say £200 a month on travel. That's a lot of money, man. £200 a month on travel means that most likely you're going out to more drinks. And I don't know about you guys, but I know in my social group, not me personally, because I don't like human beings. I stay myself indoors. I don't like talking to people. I don't have friends. Fuck everybody. But I know most people within my social group, it's not a coincidence that most of my friends who are working from home are also now tending to go out more with their friends. They're meeting up for dinners, they're going to birthday parties, they're going to christenings, they're going to baby showers,
You know what I mean? They're meeting up for drinks. They're going on holiday together. I don't think it's a coincidence that those things have increased now because people have money to save. Because if you go into work every day, like I used to go to work, into work physically, most of the time, that means you're also going out after work because you meet your colleagues. So most likely from Wednesday to Friday, you're going out for drinks every fucking evening. You're also spending money on lunch. Like, I'm quite disciplined, and I would always take my lunch with me every single day to work. But there'll be some days where you'll be tired of eating fucking chicken and rice. So you want to buy something. Suddenly you're buying something, you're spending £10 on your lunch. So it all fucking adds up. So a lot of us who have kind of saved a bunch of money, who've kind of had an improvement in our overall lifestyles and shit, and our quality of life, let's say, we're going to be bummed when these companies are like, you know what, it's mandatory. We're going to go back to how it was pre-pandemic. No more flipping working from home 5 days a week. It's going to kill a lot of us. And I'd imagine there's going to be some of us out there who are going to choose where we work based on whether or not they allow you to work from home. That's going to be a number one. It's going to, and again, I think beforehand that was a little bit of a, it was kind of one of those things that companies would dangle as a carrot. Hey, we have the possibility to work from home. But I think a lot of people, especially some of the better candidates, which a lot of companies are competing for, they're going to be the ones who are going to dictate what's going on in the future now. Because they're going to be like, you know what? No, I've got offers, so, or I've got options. So I'm not going to just go to you because you're saying yes. You're going to have to guarantee me that I can work from home a set number of days and come in. Because I think some of us don't mind. I don't know. I'm not that bothered about it being fully remote. I've checked on my socials and shit. And a lot of people that have been browsing on Twitter, especially, on the basis of this news about Amazon, especially some people in America, they're very strict. The American people are not having it. The American startup people are not having it. Most of the employers are like, no, has to be fully remote. But I feel like in Europe and in the UK, from what I've seen, a lot of people understand the companies need some of us to be in on some days. So we're happy to do like a half and half. But making us go in fully full time in the office seems a bit excessive, especially after all this time that we spent outside of the office, making that a lifestyle thing. You know, it's probably improved the amount of, it's probably maybe, I would guess, again, this is me thinking out of the box here and talking out my ass, but I would assume it's probably allowed people to even start families. Maybe some people legitimately can't afford childcare, and it's allowed people to actually start families. Like, you know what, I couldn't afford a childminder, I couldn't afford childcare, but now that we're working from home, we could actually have a kid, and we could look after the kid because we're both at home, you know, as like parents and shit. As opposed to before where you have to think about childcare, you have to think about this, you have to think about that. So it's definitely changed people's lives for the better. So to change this now would be catastrophic for most people, I'd imagine. Anyway, let me continue before I bore you. It says a letter from Amazon chief Andy Jassy said that those situations included when staff and children were sick, house emergencies, traveling for work, or coding in a more isolated environment. Some staff who had been given exemption to work remotely will remain able to do so. The changes will take place as effective of 2nd of January next year. As Mr. Jassy said, the company understands that understands staff has set up their personal lives in such a way that return to office consistently 5 days per week will require some adjustment. So to be fair to Amazon, they have given the people at Amazon a lot of time, the higher ups. They said, look, it's going to come into effect on January 2nd. So at least they've given people time now for at the end of the year to get their affairs in order and then make the change. That's pretty decent of them because they could have easily just said, hey, it's happening next week. So at least they've given people a bit of a heads up. It continues, why the change? Amazon believes that being in the office is better for the business. Looking back on 5 years of hybrid work from home and in the office, Mr. Jassy said the advantages of being together in the office is significant. Learning together, generating ideas, and strengthening company culture is simpler and more effective in the office, while teaching is more seamless and teams are better connected. He said, if anything, the last 15 months has been back in the office at least 3 days a week, has strengthened our conviction about the benefits. Now, if you've done training before, which I've done, I've taken part in training and I've also given training, you will know giving training over Slack, giving training over Teams, giving training over Zoom is such a ball ache. It is such a ball ache. You know, giving training with somebody and you're sitting by them side by side in the office or you're in a meeting room somewhere is far better. You also learning from a whiteboard somewhere in a room with other people who are learning at the same time is far better. But a part of me wonders if what they're doing isn't really addressing the problem. If they're saying working in the office is way more important than working from home and it actually benefits the overall company success, maybe they have to look at who they're hiring. Maybe the people that they're hiring day to day, right? Maybe those people that they're hiring day to day aren't able to work on their own, aren't able to work without supervision. So those people are the problem, as opposed to changing the whole entire way people work. Maybe you have to kind of focus on hiring people who can work on their own initiative, who can work without being micromanaged, who can work independently without coming to the office. Maybe that's a big thing. Or the actual reality of it is, maybe in companies, corporations, which you'd imagine, maybe the top 5 to 10% are the ones that carry the whole team anyway, but you need the top 5% to perform to kind of get the other people who are maybe bad performers or, you know, whatever, to kind of raise to their standards. And that can only happen when you're in the office together and everyone's kind of feeling that pressure of somebody working and being locked in and getting this and getting that. That kind of adds to the overall kind of environment. Maybe that's part of the reason. Who flipping knows? It continues. Is working from home to stay? Okay, let's just watch this. What's this? Businesses react to the 4-day week. Let's see this. What's this about?
What 4 days is Catherine on next week?
Nothing says both work and leisure like the humble British pub. So where better to discuss Labour's plans for a better work-life balance than a pub which has trialled its own 4-day week, with surprising results.
We did a 3-month trial and then we looked into the feedback from that and the reviews. And the biggest bit of feedback we got through interviewing people, looking at different hours, their enjoyment at work, their productivity and all those different elements, was that actually people didn't take us up on it as much as we thought they would. We found out that it wasn't actually a 4-day week that people were after. It was more the value in the flexibility of their working hours, the choice to work when you want to work.
And that flexibility is key to understanding what's going on here.
Labour is pushing back pretty strongly against some of the headlines. They say the plan is to strengthen the right to ask for flexible working. That might include, amongst other things, so-called compressed hours, doing 5 days worth of work in 4, for example. But it's not quite the same thing as imposing a 4-day working week.
I think that's perfectly fine. I think most of us, myself included, if somebody told me I had to work, let's say from 9 to 8, 4 days a week, but then I get 3 days off, I'm taking that. By the 3rd day, you're going to be dying, you're going to be hanging, your eyes are going to be bleeding, but I legitimately would take working 9 to 9 even, 4 days a week, and then having 3 days off, rather than doing 9 to 6, and then kind of doing like basically clocking in for the sake of clocking in, but not really doing any kind of constructive work, just kind of keeping up appearances work for the most part, and then most of the work gets done. Because I think in the normal work week, myself included, I think most of my actual real work gets done Monday to Wednesday. Or the first 3 days of the week is where my real work gets done. By the time Thursday and Friday comes around, the emails start to dry up, or the amount of stuff that you can action and put into place really take a bit of a nosedive. By the end of the week, there's not really much you can actually do. You have to kind of wait until the next week. People might be out, especially during this sort of time where people are going on holiday and blah, 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 back to school, It's hard to really get anything done. So if you can compress some of those hours in, I would definitely take that. I'm not going to lie.
But the Conservatives sense an opportunity to paint this as part of a damaging attack on British business.
These kind of new regulations that are coming forward will have a French-style, very pernicious effect on the workplace. And if you want growth, you need businesses to invest. If you want businesses to invest, you need certainty. And this is creating uncertainty. It'll be very damaging for the business community.
Certainly not all businesses see the positives. This West Country manufacturer also recently trialled compressed hours, but with less obvious success.
Where we failed to make it work was because we managed the day-to-day, but fundamentally the sort of business planning, the development, moving things forward, that just fell by the wayside, and that's where we'd be back to. So our growth, stopped. And I didn't go into business to manage a school register and a rota.
The government's argument is that flexible working boosts productivity, but they'll need to convince businesses across the country that it's not going to create just another rod for their...
Yeah, I guess it depends what sector you're in, but I think if you're in something like what this guy's in, where you're, manufacturing and whatnot, 4 days a week don't make any sense. You have to kind of exhaust the amount of working days that you have during the working week,
and get the most out of it. But then I guess the problem with him would be if he's working on a 5-week schedule, but then other businesses are working on a 4-day week schedule, you're going to be, it's costing you some money to operate. So you're going to kind of need to be aligned all across the board in general, you'd imagine. Anyway, it continues. The UK government, however, is attempting to facilitate remote work for more people. It's already trialled plans to extend the right to request remote and flexible working hours from the first day of employment. There are real economic benefits to be had from the UK adopting this approach. The UK has a very significant regional inequality. It could play a significant contribution to tackling that. He did concede that there are situations that legitimately need a workforce in the office, such as a new staff need to learn for those more experienced. Amazon UK Union, GMB, has said the move is another example of how Amazon has won reputation one of the worst employers around. One of the worst employers around. But we all use it, do you know what I mean? We all use Amazon services, but most likely it probably is a hell working for Amazon. Let's be real. It probably is hell. But what did you expect? Do you know what I mean? They get a fucking £5 charger to you next day. What did you expect? Do you expect the working environment of a place that gets you a £5 charger to your doorstep next day to be good? Come on. Of course not. So, but the funny thing about it is, like, most of us, like, working class, middle class people have now had the opportunity to do something that a lot of people have been doing for a long time, taking a piss. And now that we're all collectively doing it and taking advantage of this kind of, you know, way of working where you get to work from home for some days of the week, look at how the whole industry is changing. Everybody's asking for new legislation and talking about it in the House of Commons and all this movement, just because regular working class, middle class people have now actual work-life balance. It's shaking the whole industry. It's shaking countries. It's shaking the whole financial system. You see how rigged the system is? You see how rigged the system is? Finance guys have been taking the piss, working from home, working remotely in the fucking pub, doing lines at lunchtime while we've been toiling away, working away at our fucking shitty jobs, and now we finally got a little bit of a chance to work from home. Look at how they're freaking out. Look at how they're freaking out. Like, no, it's too much. They're working from home. It's like, bruh, let us breathe, man. Let us breathe. Let us breathe. For goodness sake, let us breathe. But one interesting sign of this is the kind of cultural shift or the shift in attitudes towards this, right? Look at this person on Twitter. Now, again, this person could be trolling, but look what this person posted in light of what happened with the Amazon telling everybody to go back to work 5 days a week. This person says on Twitter, done. No longer joining Twitch/Amazon. I'm out of here. Life switches up on you real fast. Gotta adapt, dogs. Congrats on Amazon for losing their best engineers. I had a $380,000 per year new grad offer, by the way. Not sure what I'm gonna do next. Maybe back to maybe A16Z, SR, or maybe start my own startup. So it looks like this kid, recent graduate, maybe from doing computer science, was offered out of uni a salary of $380,000 remote. But now that Amazon is requesting everybody to go back into the office, he's like, fuck that. I'd rather look for another company that can offer me remote or start my own startup. So I wonder if this is going to be a thing we'll start seeing. People actually declining to work for some of these companies because they are mandating, you know, working from the office. And there's no exceptions unless you've got some extenuating circumstances. Pretty crazy to turn down a $380,000 a year contract because it's not fully remote. And most likely, though, you would imagine, most likely, there's a possibility other companies are going to take advantage of this and be like, you know what? If Amazon is going to lose all their best engineers because they require them to work from the office, we're going to sweep up and we're going to take them and say, hey, you can work remotely. Because if you know, working for any sort of company, most of the guys that work in that department anyway are, you know, they're not the most sociable guys anyway. They could do that job in the middle of a McDonald's. They can do it in the middle of traffic. They don't actually need to be in the office for the most part. They can do that easily remotely. So it probably is a bit of a piss take for the engineers and developers to be in the office. Everybody else probably needs to be, whereas the developers and engineers are probably a little bit more of a self-starter types and they can kind of easily do it. And he continues as well and he says, I have a mortgage to pay though, so gotta still make bank, but honestly thinking of just doing my own startup thing. We will let you know
going to spend the day looking at opportunities, rock climbing and Balatro. Let me know if anything cool is coming up in NYC. If it's not clear, the reason that I'm doing this is because of the 5-day office mandate from Amazon. So let's see how this works out for people. I'm curious to see how it works out going forward. I'm curious to see how people react to stuff like this. I can see it from both sides. I think if I had a business, I would probably like my employees to come in some days a week. I think it's nice for the culture. It's nice for the environment. It's nice for just the camaraderie between people. And I also think sometimes being fully remote and then going in is kind of counterproductive. I've noticed that with myself. As you guys know, I'm a fucking world-class and professional yapper. And I've noticed that when you work from home and then you have to go in once a week or once per month, you all start yapping because you haven't seen each other in so long. Maybe like myself, you haven't seen other humans in real life in a long time. So when you get to see them, you're so excited. You start yapping about everything and whatever, catching up on all this sort of stuff. What happened to your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband, your kid, your cat, your fucking octopus, your fucking caterpillar, whatever fucking happened. And then guess what happens? You don't work. So it's actually counterproductive. So sometimes maybe increasing the amount of time you're in the office and mandating it per week is actually beneficial and allows you to kind of all chill out and not be so eager to fucking yap and talk when you guys see each other in real life. Again, I could be wrong, but that's something that I've observed when I've been out there in the workforce. So let's see how this plays out for Amazon. It's a bit of a mad one. Thoughts and prayers to everybody who works at Amazon, who was working fully remotely and now has to work at Amazon 5 days a week now. Absolutely torture, but keep your head up. Keep your blood clot head up. Keep your blood clot head up. Big up the stream chat. What are you guys saying? Big up the stream chat. What are you guys saying? Make sure you like the stream if you're here. I see some of you in here saying, where you been, BB? Big up Abe. Big up Abe Martinez. You know how it is, brother. I've been out here, man. I've been out here living, working, striving, struggling, standing up, standing down, lifting weights, punching weights. You know how it is. Kicking babies, slapping girls in the face. But I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. Big up Sar Lux. Commuting sucks. Yeah, commuting is hell. Commuting. The only good thing I liked about commuting was the fitness aspect of it, and also the time. Because I'm not too sure about you guys, but when I used to commute to work, I used to love it because I got a chance every day to read uninterrupted. If I was on the train or the bus for, let's say, 40 to 50 minutes, or if I was cycling, I got to listen to an audiobook. So I used all that time to kind of, that's where I think if you look back at some of my content, I was reading a lot more pre-pandemic when I was commuting to work, because most of the workplaces I was at required me to travel at least 40 minutes door to door, which, you know, allowed me to kind of read a book, listen to the audiobook, podcast, blah, 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 blah. So that was really fucking good. But the actual function of it, hell, especially before the Elizabeth line started, and you'd have to go on the overground, and that was fucking flaky. Or you have to go on the central line, and that was flaky. It was horrible. There were some days where the fucking trains were completely done. You have to take the bus to work. Or that was torture. Or if you were really desperate, you take the fucking cab to work. And obviously on those days when the trains were down, that would also be a surcharge because everybody's doing the same thing. And then you're paying 100 quid to get into work in the morning. Like, it's absolutely torture. So commuting can be hell. But of course, if you want to be fit and healthy and skinny and shit, it's great because you get to walk a lot. You get to always be moving. But obviously it takes a hit on your pocket. Yo, big up Josie in the chat. What's going on, my dear? Just like public school, a lot is wasted time. Exactly. Girl Mibson is there. People shouldn't work at all. Just print the fucking money. Yeah, I wish, mate. That would be fucking amazing. That would be fucking brilliant. But a lot of people hate stuff like UBI really across the board, which I've never really understood, to be completely honest, because I think even if UBI became a thing across the board, I think a lot of us would still work. I know I would. You just go and work in the field that you're actually passionate about, and maybe that would actually give you a reason to get up in the morning, would actually make you a far better human to be around, will make you a far better human to contribute to society and shit. It just would generally improve everybody's mood. You know what I mean? I honestly think it would. If everybody got like 1,500 a month, but then got the chance to work extra to get more money if you wanted to, that'd actually be pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. Big up Don Dotto in the stream chat as well. I see you. Not surprised Amazon of all companies is doing this. They're probably the worst company in terms of work-life balance. Yeah, for sure. Again, I'm not surprised though. I think companies that operate on that sort of level, that's how they should be. Like, there's no way you can run a service or like they do and have it be a
good place to work culturally, like spiritually, philosophical wise, well, whatever that fucking word is. It's impossible. It's impossible. They can't do what they do without hurting somebody. And of course, who they hurt? Bitch, you guessed it, the employees. Big up everyone in the stream chat. I appreciate all of you. Big up Game Bread Football as well. Google offices are sick. Yep. Big up Young Old Vibes. They straight up going to the beach. Oh yeah, it's go straight. Oh, I saw the big up Young Old Vibes. Did you see that video that went viral of some lady? She was on like a hopefully it wasn't a prank or like some sort of sketch, but she was on like a Teams meeting or like a Google Hangout, and she was legitimately on a beach with a cocktail in her hand, but she didn't put the video camera on. She didn't turn it off. She had it on, but she turned it off too late, and everyone saw it. She was legitimately on the beach, legit on a fucking beach, with a fucking rainbow-colored drink in her hand, like having the time of her life. Everybody's faces, and I think if I'm not mistaken, it looked like a manager. So everybody was a bit like, didn't know what to say. They were kind of just like looking around, like, did everybody just see what I saw? She was legitimately on the beach. It was fucking insane. It was like, come on, man. Don't take that much of a piss. But, you know, we all got to do stuff. Moving on. This is a really interesting plan and something that I think is really flipping cool. I'm not going to lie. And I'm all for this. This is courtesy of The Guardian. And I think it just came out yesterday, actually, news. Actually, really, really good news. I'm not going to lie. For those of us who live in London. It says, traffic to be banned from London's Oxford Street under Sadie Khan's plan. The mayor to be given power to overrule Westminster Council, which blocked previous plans and concerns over rerouting buses. So effectively, what they want to do going forward is that they want to turn Oxford Street, which is obviously central London, where all the nice shops and shit are here in London, they want to turn that into a 100% pedestrianised area. So no cars, no bicycles, just people walking around and shit, which I think is going to be so fucking good for that area. If you've been there shopping, if you've been there hanging out, you would know that cars and bicycles, I'm a cyclist myself, it's a bit of a horror show there. I know that area from like, and I cycle quite a lot, especially sometimes in that area, especially on my fixie. And I've got to be honest, I do enjoy the thrill of blaring down from like Holborn all the way past Tottenham Court Road, all the way past Oxford Street, smashing all the lights, going past all the red lights, running as fast as possible and dodging people on the street, especially that bit outside of Nike Town. That little street there where the Uniqlo is. People kind of just jump into the street without looking. And it's always kind of fun trying to dodge them and shit. I'm not going to lie. But it's also a hazard. And I'm sure many people there have fucking probably died, got injured, lost their phones, whatever. Things have happened in that street. So it's a real hazard. Loads of accidents happen. It's not really safe. And for the most part, I would assume on any given day anyway, especially if you've been there shopping and you looked out, or especially if you're on a bus and you're on the top floor, most of the people that you see on Oxford Street are pedestrians. You don't really see a lot of cars. There are cars, but they're obviously in traffic. But the majority of the people there are pedestrians. And I think on the days, I forgot what day it is, but there's a day in the year where they do kind of ban cars from that area. And you are just only allowed pedestrians to walk on the street and stuff. And it does improve the flow of Oxford Street 10 times over. Because you're not all jam-packed and kind of rammed into really thin pavements. Because as you can see here, our pavements, aka sidewalks in the UK or a la Europe, are usually quite narrow compared to places in the US. So there's not a lot of room to budge on, especially if the cars are going up and down the street. So pedestrianizing the entire fucking street, both lanes of traffic, allowing no cars will definitely improve the flow, will definitely make it more safe. And weirdly enough, will probably make more people go to central London and shop. Because as much as I hate shopping physically, like I don't mind, you know, I obviously love buying online. I hate fucking shopping physically. I would gladly go to Oxford Street with it being 100% pedestrianized than go to a place like Westfield or like White, you know, White City, whatever it may be. You have all those shopping malls. I would much prefer to go to Oxford Street. At least you're outside and you're outdoors. At least you have the shops you can walk up and down from. You have nice restaurants you can go chill at, bars and stuff. It will just improve the overall experience to go to central London. And I'm somebody, I've always been a, you know, noted and very vocal hater of central London. But I think most of it has to come from the traffic and the fact that you feel like you get stuck there when you go there. You know, you can't really go in and out.
But if they pedestrianize the whole entire street, it will allow, I think, people like myself who fucking hate shopping, who hate physically shopping in places like this, who hate walking up and down that street, more opportunity to go. And it will probably, weirdly enough, increase the amount of people shopping, which is probably why they're doing it. They're not doing this for safety reasons. They're obviously doing this to make sure Oxford Street comes back alive again, because I'm imagining probably all the stores are down in terms of sales, probably from the pandemic. They've never really recovered. But a good way to maybe encourage people to spend more money is to make it a little bit more of a hangout. So maybe you could go there, you could sit down on one of these benches, you know, on the street, grab a drink, grab a breather. Especially if you're going there with your fucking missus and she's spending all the fucking time in Selfridges, you can just sit outside in the sun, in the shade, hang out, relax, people watch whatever, chill, get a drink. All this good stuff can happen at the same time. So I'm all for it. I'm definitely for it if that happens. So let's read the article. It says traffic will be banned from London's Oxford Street under plans announced by the Mayor Sadie Khan, using new powers from the Labour to push through a long-thwarted pedestrianisation of the capital's famous shopping strip. Khan said that urgent action was needed so that the mile-long street could once again become the leading retail destination in the world. The Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rai, is expected to sign off on a proposed development area given greater power by Khan as he revives the plans he first laid out in 2017. Bloody hell. They're just getting around to doing it now. And they originally spec'd out to do this in 2017. God almighty, mate. The wheels of government really do move slowly, innit? Fuck me. News was met with dismay by Westminster Council, which blocked the previous plan amid business and residents' concerns over rerouting buses. Man, shut up, man, honestly. Rerouting buses concerns. I knew it. Anyway, and whose own 90 million shovel-ready regeneration plans for the street may have now been superseded. Politicians and retailers have for years sought to breathe new life into a street whose renown and cultural position on the most expensive side of the monopoly board has long been at odds with the down at the hill reality, even before the proliferation of shops selling American candy and dubious souvenir. In the 1960s, plans to carry shoppers via a travelator and 1970s scheme for a track carrying cars on air cushions failed to take off. Traffic has been incrementally limited since proposals for pedestrianisation under the former London Mayor Ken Livingstone. Now, under the new plans, that almost a century after the horse and carts were banned in an attempt to end slow-moving traffic, the double-decker buses and black cabs that queue up and down Oxford Street would be rerouted elsewhere. And legit, look how that would improve the overall look of Oxford Street. It'd make it way more, habitable, hospital, whatever that word is, fucking, it'd make it look like a cool European strip to go and hang out in. I actually wouldn't mind it, honestly. Khan maintains that the pedestrianised street would enjoy increased footfall and spending and generate increased tax revenue. Oxford Street, once the jewel of the crown of British retail sector, but there's no doubt that this suffered hugely over the last decade. Urgent action is needed to give the nation's most famous high street a new lease of life. I'm excited to be working on a new government and the local retailers and the businesses on these plans, and will help to restore this famous part of the capital to its former glory. As Secretary of the State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, Rayner can allow Khan to establish a mayoral development corporation planning powers. Oxford Street is a world-renowned shopping destination, and we want it to be that way, which I agree with. And again, it's iconic seeing the black cabs and the buses go up and down that strip. But I think enough's enough, man. You don't need a bus to take you from Tottenham Court Road to fucking Oxford Street. Walk. Do you know what I mean? Use your fucking legs. Get some fucking steps inside of you. You know what I mean? Get some distance in you. You don't need to be taking a bus there and for. Like, it doesn't really fucking matter. And it's just taking up space and fucking putting people's lives in jeopardy. It continues. Oxford Street has recently begun a bounce back from the plunge in visitor numbers during the pandemic, when restrictions on retailing international and local travel hit hard, and about 500,000 people now visit daily. Vacancies soared as big department stores, including Debenhams, House of Fraser, closed down, while space was filled by a flurry of candy shops that was seen to lower the appeal of the street. Westminster Council owes Vision a slimmed down 90 million redevelopment plan of the street in partnership with New West End Company Trade was given a green light, including new seating, lighting, and 64 new improved pedestrian crossings. And I really love it, honestly. I'm not gonna lie. I really love the plan. I think the pictures look really fucking cool. I'm all for the pedestrianization of Oxford Street. I think it's a long time coming. It really needs to happen ASAP. If anything, I would be somebody that would push for it to be on the entire strip, all the way up until fucking Bond Street. The entire strip from Tottenham Court Road all the way to Bond Street, that should all be pedestrianised. If you want to get a bus, get it from somewhere else, reroute them all the way around anyway. Most buses anyway go around the other way as well, around like Piccadilly Circus and shit. It could easily be rerouted. It wouldn't be that much of a big deal. It would also kind of, I'd imagine, ease some of the pressure on the buses as well, because people could probably walk up from Holborn all the way up and go shopping that way. And obviously the more shops they pass, similar to how shops, when they put like confectionery sweets on the till when you're about to pay, it'll probably increase people's shopping habits and make them maybe pop into different shops they won't pop into anyway. So I would actually be very, very fond of that if that did eventually happen. But the plans look proper sick. I like it. And for somebody like myself who's a big and noted fucking West London hater, it definitely makes it more appealing to me. So big up Sadie Khan. I never thought I'd say that, but big up, big up, big up blood clot Sadie Khan. Moving on. Unfortunate news. Let's talk about this. Unfortunate news. Fortunate news. So this is courtesy of the BBC, and this says a pair accused of helping Cody Fisher's killer evade capture. Bloody hell. A mother and an aunt have been charged with helping the now convicted murderer avoid arrest. So if you guys know, this Cody Fisher kid, I think he died in a nightclub somewhere in the UK. A tragic story. I think he was a professional footballer as well. And he bumped into somebody. He stepped on their foot by accident. That kind of led to an argument. And then they kind of basically chased him down. I think they followed him somewhere outside and ended up stabbing him, and he ended up dying. Really tragic and a senseless death. Very, very sad. But it's looking like the mum and the aunt of the killer would obviously helping the killer to evade capture. And they're now doing this new thing where they're trying to persecute people who basically assist kids who end up stabbing other kids and shit, as a way to maybe, you know, get the parents to actually, you know, basically parent their kids and take more action in being more responsible for the things that they do, because it could come back and hurt them also, which I love to see. So RIP Cody Fisher. It says Cammy Carpenter was jailed for life in April after being found guilty of killing footballer Cody Fisher. Jazine Carpenter, 39, and Nadine Taylor, 44, are accused of helping him avoid arrest in the days after Mr. Fisher's stabbing. I know you have to protect your kid and shit. I know every person's got love for their kid, unconditional. But if your kid killed another kid, especially in this senseless way, and you are helping him evade arrest, you are a horrible human being. And it probably proves, you know, the apple don't fall far from the tree. Fucking hell. Mr. Fisher, a former Birmingham City FC academy member who was also playing for Bromsgrove Sporting and Stratford Town, was pronounced dead at the Crane nightclub in Digbeth after suffering wounds to the chest and legs. Miss Carpenter and her sister, Miss Taylor, appeared before magistrates on Tuesday on charges of assisting the offender. The pair from Dudley were released on bail to appear before Wolverhampton Crown Court on the 8th of October. Hopefully they get some time in prison, because this will obviously dissuade, I think, this people from doing this and kind of helping and assisting murderers. This is fucking tragic, man. Cabby Carpenter, 22, was convicted of the murder alongside Remy Gordon, 23. They blamed each other for the stabbing of the 23-year-old. A third man, Regan Anderson, was found not guilty of the murder, but guilty of affray. The really tragic story if you fucking read it, because there is a passage, or there is a bit in the story that I think basically leads you to believe that although it was a tragic death, the Cody Fisher kid didn't help himself also in the altercation. I think he also wasn't backing down when the kids are basically trying to put it on him. So obviously that eventually escalated to a fight. But obviously, you know, there is no excuse for going to that extent because somebody accidentally bumped into or stepped onto her shoe. And obviously the mum and the aunt really should kind of hang their heads in shame for assisting their son or their fucking nephew with this fucking murder, knowing that they took another kid, you know, away from their family and shit in such a tragic way. So RIP Cody Fisher. RIP Cody Fisher. It's good to see the people who are responsible for his death are being brought to justice. It's good to see that. It's good to see that. Moving on. I quickly wanted to touch upon and follow up on the news regarding Watergate's closing. As I mentioned previously in the podcast per episode before, Watergate, the legendary club in Berlin, will unfortunately close at the end of the year. They are citing rising energy costs, rising costs and rents, and all this malarkey. But from my naive, uninformed, dumb point of view from the outside looking in, it does seem to be like a mixture of things all at once, but predominantly seems to be like a finger where they didn't really keep up with the times. They weren't really addressing the concerns that a lot of punters, myself included, and other people on the internet, which I'm going to show you, had about the club, and that effectively led to their very poor reputation. They had one of the worst reputations in Berlin for club experiences, despite being a legendary nightclub. And I think it cashed up to them eventually. They couldn't keep getting away with treating people like shit. And eventually the customers voted with their feet and people stopped going. And that eventually, I think, affected how the club is and how the club is future-wise. So I just wanted to double check on Google to see their reviews and to see if the reviews kind of summed up or marry some of the impressions that I've been having when I've been going there. So let's actually get the review up on here, courtesy of Google, of Watergate. And let's actually do it via newest and see what people are saying here. So this is newest reviews. We've got a 5-star review here. This person says, the Italians who say they won't enter are absurd. We arrived late and we even got a discounted our entry. Magnificent space, 2 rooms with a bar. We haven't tried yet. That person loved it. This person from 7 hours ago said, we were visiting Berlin and wanted to experience a good party. Unfortunately, we were rudely turned away at the door. Luckily, Berlin still has a decent clubs. We treat you to bankruptcy. Wow. I think this is one of the worst things about Berlin's door policy thing. Because they have this really weird, draconian, and very personal door picking selection thing, which is obviously one of their secret sources. Because without door picking, I don't think people were going to wank over Berlin clubs the way they do, myself included. We wank over the clubs there because they are very purposeful about how they do things. They obviously take everything they do very seriously. You can basically be a professional bouncer over there in Berlin and have that be your actual career. As opposed to here in the UK, it's not really a thing. It's mostly a security guard, but security guards don't really door pick and shit. So it's a whole different thing over there. But if they didn't have door picking, I don't think people would give a shit because most of their clubs, you know, they are what they are. But the door picking also is a negative because if you don't get in, you're obviously going to give the place a 1 star, but it's not really an accurate representation of the club experience because you didn't get in. So you don't know what it was like on the inside. So it kind of skews the way clubs are rated and looked at. Now, again, most people probably don't even check reviews. Most people just go and just check stuff for themselves with their own eyes and shit. But it does really probably hamper clubs when they do have door picking because if you don't get in, what are you going to do when you go home to leave a Google review or Yelp review? You're obviously going to give them a 1 star. You know what I mean? Even though it doesn't really reflect your experience accurately because you didn't get inside. Another person said, absolute crap shop. Well, karma is a bitch, friends. Now you can close your crap shop for financial reasons. But the main thing was to turn people away at the door that could no longer surpass. So some people are celebrating. Some people are actually celebrating that Watergate is closed. And to be fair, though, because I've been turned away from Watergate sometimes. But, you know, based on my skin color, it's obvious to know why I would get turned away from Watergate. But from other people who aren't black and who aren't obviously, you know, let's say Middle Eastern looking or whatever, or North African looking, you have to be a real psycho not to get into to Watergate. Because for the most part, they let anybody else in. As long as you're fucking not black or not brown, you usually get in pretty easily. So if you don't get in and you're white, you're going to take that really personally. And you're gonna fucking wave your Karen flag. You're going to get your fucking loudspeaker and you're going to shout from the rooftops how much of a fucking shitty club this is. You're not going to be happy about it. So I'm not surprised to see people really, really pissed off. Another person says here, the club is too selective at the entrance. Personally, I came to celebrate my bachelor party with 10 of my friends and we had to buy our tickets in advance and we came from far away. We were denied entry and received racist remarks from the manager at the door. I've been to the best clubs in the world. Ibiza, Marrakesh, Paris. Ibiza, Marrakesh, and Paris are the best clubs in the world. They might be the best destinations, though. I don't think they're the best clubs in the world. And we were never denied entry. On Watergate, because we were Arab, you can't enter. Maybe you should consider your model and imagine your projection. Another person says, please build better club in the place. This is a shame to the capital. The club finally goes bankrupt. Look, people are happy. It's gone. Great location experience, the Berlin Techno. Me and my friend were asked and we spoke German and they promptly turned us away after paying for the event tickets. Don't even bother. Wow. A lot of bad reviews here. They didn't let us in, even with tickets purchased. We were more than 4 people, well dressed, and we knew what we were going to listen to. That's something as well that I'm not a big fan of. If Berlin clubs want to do what they want to do, cool, about selecting. But don't let people buy tickets online and then turn them away at the door. That is incredibly rude, incredibly dismissive, incredibly. It's just bad across the board. But I guess they want to kind of have their cake and eat it as well. You want to be able to take money ahead of time to gauge how many people are going to come, blah, 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 blah. But if you're going to do the whole like door picking thing, just make it cash on entry. That's it. Cash on entry only. That's it. Easy way to kind of get around everything. Let's scroll through. Another one says here, being an institution in Berlin, one would accept basic rules of social inclusion to be followed, but unfortunately that was not the case. I'm a disabled DJ and was on the guest list along with 24 other people from our crew. What, 24 disabled people? Or is it 24 people? Because if it's 24 disabled people, then maybe that's a lot of people to accommodate for. At first, it seemed like the club was accessible since they let me through a ramp near the entrance. They allowed all of us to enter, and some of us even paid reduced event tickets. Only later did we find that there were 3 flights of stairs. Oh my God, this is horrible. Only later did we find out there were 3 flights of stairs to reach the dance floor. As a result, everyone, including those who had paid, left with me. The club's management dismissed us without even an apology. Accessibility should be a foundation of an inclusive world, but here we are still far from achieving that. It was a terrible experience and none of it expected from such a famous club in Berlin. So why did they let them in? This is why no one should be sad Watergate is closing, because they're run by such inept people. Why would they let somebody in that's disabled, knowing fully well that they don't have the accessibility needed to get the person to the dance floor? Why not tell them at the door, hey, unfortunately, this club hasn't got the, you know, the facilities to accommodate you, so we'd probably just tell you to go somewhere else. You know what I mean? As opposed to take your money, let you come in, and then you realize there's 3 flights of stairs to get to the fucking dance floor. That's fucking insane. Honestly, no one should be surprised that Watergate didn't work out. That fucking that venue, that location, the fact that it didn't work out is a user error. I don't care what anyone says. The fact that Watergate didn't work out is more so a user error, the way it's run, as opposed to, oh, the rising cost. Fuck off the rising cost. Look at the location that you're at. Look at you. You're literally, this is like the perfect location for a club in Berlin, you'd imagine. Look at where it's at, bro. Look at where it's at on the map. It's nearby the river. It's not too far from like, what's that, the trendy bit Neukölln. It's not too far from like Alexanderplatz, right? Which is, I think, somewhere around here. It's not too far from like Prenzlauer Berg. It's not too far from like Bergheim, which is on the other side. It's not too far from like Club, RSO, which is somewhere down here. It's literally in the middle, effectively. Like everyone can kind of get to it fairly easily. North, south, east, west, whatever. It's in a perfect location, especially transport-wise and whatever it may be. And it's an iconic place. Everyone knows where it's at, near the fucking bridge, blah, 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 blah. So the fact that it's had to close, I think, is more of a reflection on how badly it was run, as opposed to this whole idea that, oh, the rising energy costs, it costs too much for Wi-Fi, all this fucking malarkey. It's like, nah, bro, you motherfuckers just didn't run that space properly. And even that hotel, what's that? I forgot the hotel's name, but there's a very famous hotel here that's in purple that everyone goes to sometimes. I forgot. I think even I've been there myself. It's a very, very famous hotel next to it, actually. It's lit up in pink. It's around here. I think it's this one there. That hotel as well is right next to it as well. So is it, that's what it's called? Is it something, the Enhau? That's the Enhau Hotel. That Enhau Hotel, a lot of people from international people go there. I've been there plenty of times with work back in the day. Like, look, it's across the river from the Universal building. Shut up, man. The only reason why Watergate didn't work because the people that run it are fucking inept. That's the real reason why. Like, they ran it into the ground. They had a fucking prime location place with all this history tied to it. Great fucking interior, amazing sound system, and they fucking somehow managed to fuck it up. That's on them. No one else, in my personal opinion. But, you know, what do I bloody know? What do I bloody know? Absolutely nothing. Let's see if they got any pictures on the inside here. I'm going through some of the pictures here, courtesy of the Google mappings. You see how it looks on the outside. Let's continue forward here. They're going to, come on, mate, can I see more? Or is that it? I think that's it, cool. And then there's also a really decent thread I wanted to talk about, courtesy of the Berghain subreddit, regarding how sad it was, it closed, but also a bit of a reality check about what it was like to kind of club in there. This person posted on the Berghain community subreddit. Kind of sad about Watergate, but also it has lost any kind of reputation it once had. I went there recently for an old comrade in London
club scene, and he played to absolutely nobody. Downstairs, they banged it out to a crowd of bros and tourists. It's still a spectacular location for a club, and the sun rising over the river and warming the crowd through the windows still has its charm. But the feel of the club was one of the stepping into the previous age. Despite its posh decor, Watergate feels cramped, humid, and even when full, no up-and-coming DJ sees their reputation being made there. It runs on 2,000 legends who have outpriced the hit places. DJs a new generation can take or leave, RIP, but the feeling of a space opening up new must be compelling. Exactly. I'm ambivalent about the forthcoming closure. This is something that I think, big up my girl Natalie Peake. This is what she mentioned in when she kind of blew up the spot and kind of exposed, which everybody kind of assumed was Watergate because she was working there previously. So she had a bad experience working at a very popular club in Berlin. A lot of people guessed it was Watergate. And Natalie Peake said the same thing. She said it was basically stuck in its ways. The management were not really receptive to introducing new type of parties, new type of clientele, blah, 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 blah. And effectively, that's what effectively cost them, you know? In the end, you'd imagine they couldn't really keep up with the times, and over time, they paid the ultimate price. Let's go through some other responses here. It says it probably won't affect many people in the sub personally, but it's still an institution in Berlin club scene that lasted for almost a quarter of a century, where most famous DJs had their first gigs and whatsoever. It's definitely sad and not a good sign overall. I think it is a good sign because a lot of clubs, even Fabric, bro. Fabric in London is fucking shit, personally. I think it's a terrible experience of a club. Obviously, functionally, it's great, but I think Fabric has been able to survive this long because their management keep up with the times. They kind of made a shift in how they promote, made a shift in what kind of promoters they have in, what type of collectors they let put events on there. Like they've actually been a bit more like forward thinking in terms of how they've kind of approached things and not just kind of stuck to their pigeonholed, minimal, deep house, tech house sort of vibe. And that's why they're still thriving and succeeding today, honestly. So I think it is possible. They just didn't really keep up with the times. That's my personal opinion, but I could be wrong. Another person says here, some people in this thread don't realize that clubbing world doesn't just revolve around Berghain. Everyone who has a real passion for this music, the scene in Berlin's historical melting pot for the club culture, should be sad about Watergate closing. It's a historical institution for the city. Personally, the place wasn't for me, but I'm not blind to what it means for the scene in Berlin. Historical clubs are closing at an alarming rate, and Berlin is very quickly losing the soul of what made it a special place for house, techno, and counterculture. Whilst it's still the most unique city in the world for clubs, it's definitely past its golden age, and the future continues to prove that it's still this way due to useless government, councils, and money-hungry pieces of shit, aka real estate developers. That's true, because somebody did mention, most likely, Watergate will remain empty for like 2 years up until they decide what to do with it, or before the planning permission gets granted and work continues to rebuild or whatever Watergate is going to be rebuilt into. But let's also be honest and say the Watergate management have to take a lot of accountability for how they ran that space, or how they refused to run that space, and the fact that it kind of went to the point where now they have to close it. Because, you know, you'd imagine with the amount of foot traffic or the amount of, you know, people that kind of pass around there, the fact that they let this club get into a state of disrepute to disregard has in part due to their mismanagement. Yes, the rising rent costs are not great, of course. I think they definitely have to look at that, especially as a government or whatever they do over there in Berlin, and figure out a way to kind of limit the price hiking in rents and shit, especially when you can think about how much nightlife probably contributes to the overall, you know, GDP of fucking Berlin and shit. But you also have to take accountability that a lot of these clubs, especially if it's an institutional way it is, you know, you have to, if it's a historical institution, the people that are running it should probably be a little bit more considerate about how they run it and make sure that they keep the lights on, because they can't lose such a cultural, to lose such a cultural institution is a bad look on the scene overall. So the management should have been aware of that and not been so dismissive of maybe introducing or allowing new promoters to do new cool parties there and invite new people inside there, and not be so fucking bigoted and homophobic or whatever else that they may have been that maybe have led to their kind of demise. Who knows? It continues. Haven't been there in a long time, this person says. Last time I went there was horrible, which was a long time before COVID, and it wasn't planning to go there again. Still, it just sucks. So many clubs are closing. Whether I like it or not, it's just not good. Of course, that was always been the case, but at the current speed of club closures, there soon won't be any left, and there's definitely not new ones popping up. That's definitely a problem. They've still got great clubs there, but you can see it's definitely following the same thing that's following in London. Loads of clubs are closing. Not many spots are opening up. If anything, I feel like Berlin is similar to London, where there's way more like cocktail bars and restaurants opening as opposed to dedicated nightclubs. That's not really a thing anymore. Which obviously might even explain why fucking Open Ground is where it's at in Wuppertal. Who fucking knows? It continues. Another person here says, I went to Watergate first time in 2009. On weekends, it was very good. But I've never fond memories of going there on Wednesdays. Had a very local good vibe. Oh, so I have very good memories of going there on Wednesdays. Oh, okay. I didn't know that was a thing. I was fresh in uni and my gang and me often stayed until Thursday morning 9 a.m. at the closing, only to have to take the walk of shame in the morning. The U8 metro up to Wedding where we lived back then. Of course, we could not afford a taxi smelling like ashtray. We were together with the commuters. I even think of my first pill in the gate, although I'm not totally sure about that. Very nice memories, long time ago. Yeah, for sure. I think the only place I get that sort of feeling midweek, which I really do love to go to, is that bar called Paloma. That's one of my favorites. That's one of my favorite hangout places. And this place called Same Heads, which I'm obviously going to cover in the next story about the attack on that person that happened there, unfortunately to them. But I think Paloma and Same Heads are probably the places I go to kind of replicate that sort of feeling midweek of hanging out and shit. But I'd imagine a lot of people there, again, I don't live there, so who knows? But I'd imagine a lot of people that probably live in Berlin don't like to go to clubs anyway midweek. They'll probably like to go to a bar or like a good restaurant, stay there after hours and shit. Especially during the summer, you probably just stay out as long as possible. Maybe go to somebody's house and shit. Maybe grab some drinks at the fucking Spackcuff or whatever maybe. But probably a nightclub midweek probably isn't the best place to go. You probably want to save that for the weekend. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm dumb. And everyone says Renate closing also. Yep, Renate also closed I think by the end of 2025. Not to be a doomer here, but between this, Menschmeier, blank, probably Renat closing, and A1000 in Berlin will be a very different city in 5 years. The club culture is a huge magnifying young international creatives coming in, and while so far they've been able to be fine in nooks and crannies, even though derelict spaces to fill in existing institutions are being priced out and there's nowhere else to go really. That's very true. Very, very true what they mentioned there, because if I'm not mistaken, isn't Club Ost meant to be closing soon too? Wasn't Club Ost in like a temporary location? I swear it is. Club Ost is probably meant to be closing soon. I think RSO is permanent, their location. So, you know, Trésor is there. But yeah, there's not a lot of places, in it, to go to. Not really a lot of places. It's fucking sad. It really is fucking sad. But big up Berlin. They're now struggling the same way we are struggling. We're keeping places open. Who would have funked it? Who would have funked it? Not me. Not fucking me. Anyways, my friends, that's it for now. I'm going to be out. Thank you for tuning in to the Action Zinger show. That was a quick one just to get you over the hill. I'm going to be back again for a random show happening in about 30 minutes. So if you want to check out the random show, definitely keep an eye out. I'll put a notification out for everyone to check it out. Random show happening in about 30 minutes for those of you that want to tune into the random show. For now, take care, my friends. It's been a blessing. It's been a chore. Never a good time. Never a good time. Always a chore. See you guys again very, very soon in half an hour for the random show. But for now, take care. Peace. Peace, 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 peace.